Howdy there, fellow nerds. Sorry, I'm just setting up the stream. Welcome back to another stream with me, Fluent Code, here in the UK, live on Twitch and YouTube. That's right, we're back on YouTube again. We had a great little session last time. Sorry, I'm peering through my plethora of things that are in the way that I am going to have to change some things up here, because that is getting to be a little bit awkward with everything being quite in the way as it is. I might need to bring the light up or down or something. Yeah, we had a fantastic little session last time. Here we go. This is exactly what I'm talking about. I've got this lamp here that just needs to come up a bit. Hold on, let me adjust it without wobbling the camera too much. Move it down a bit. Come on. See, it goes very, very stiff. I am talking about the camera. Not talking about the camera. I'm talking about this lamp here. Oh, here we go. Right. And that's not too bad. Happy with that. We can live with that. So, we had a great little session last time. We have 3 really, really nice miniatures I am super happy with. Couple of these are basically done and dusted. They're finished. There's nothing more to do on them. Namely, well, in fact, no, none of them are done and dusted and nothing more to do on them, because we have a little bit of work to do on, in actual fact. Can you see that? Can you see? Wraithbone. Wraithbone is the colour. I've got a few details and bits and pieces to pick out. Yeah, we do have a little bit more work to do. Now, hold that thought. I am just realised again, I'm going in dead silence. I need to update my... Here we go. Turn that on, and then have a little bit of music in the background. I've actually got some other miniatures to paint this evening. I very quickly did a little session with the... Wow, I am super faded out when that light gets right in my face. Yeah, that's a bit better. Had a little session with the spray paints before we started, where oh wow, that's pretty thick, isn't it? I might need to do something with that. Where I sprayed up a few more miniatures to get us ready for another session. So I think you might already have seen this guy. It's another storm giant who we are going to possibly work on him. I think perhaps I might put him to one side and work on something else this evening. I've got a number of other miniatures which we can have a go at. We have an ogre, very, very lovely ogre. I do like him, actually. He's got little mutton chop sideburns going on. Very, very cool looking miniature. The only problem is that I have literally just painted these, and they do maybe feel a little bit tacky, and they are quite stinky because of the spray paints that I use. However, so we have our storm giant. We have an iron golem. He's very cool. He's a very cool little model. I'm not entirely sure how I plan on painting him. I think I might go for like a sort of bronze colour for a lot of it, which will mean basically painting him metallic, therefore making all of this hard work that we've put in here irrelevant, because that will not show through, and I hadn't thought of that. What I really needed to have done was sprayed him black and then sprayed him silver from above, and then come in with a silver dry brush. So perhaps he won't be metallic. Perhaps he will be painted in almost like an enamel colour, or rather painted so that he looks like he's enamelled rather than just being plain metal. And then at least that way he'll retain his pre-shading that we've got going on there. So we've got that one as well. And then we have I don't quite know how to display this on the screen. So we've got a little bit of luck, you know, a bit of a thing going on here with how these are displayed. So we're going to we'll put our Storm Giant up there, we'll put our Iron Golem there, and then we have a Dracolich, which is a colossal mod. Look at that, look at the size of him. These miniatures, I can't get over how kind of cool they are. Look, they are PVC, but they are surprisingly well detailed. You've got quite a lot of, you can see it there, you've got quite a lot of veins and bits and pieces on the wing membranes. I did have to do a bit of tidying up on this one because some of these were infilled a bit strongly. But you know, you've got open ribs and quite a nice skull visage there to work on. So that's going to be quite a nice model to work on. So we have all of those. I have also, as part of the ones that we've just sprayed up, I have an Oblex, which I have no idea what that actually is, but my God, is it terrifying. I'm assuming that this poor lass here at the front is some kind of puppet being controlled by the big gooey blob of faces, which I have, like I say, I have no idea how that's supposed to look, but we can Google it, we can find some images. And so I then also have a Fire Giant, who's going to be quite a nice thing to paint eventually when we get round to him. That's going to involve a little bit of work looking at different colour schemes and what have you is available for that miniature, or what I want to do with him, because he's quite nice, but he is also actually a sort of, I picture with a face like that, he's actually a bit more of like a fat landowner rather than a wrathful giant somehow. Quite a nice detailed model for using the contrast paints on, so that should come up really nice. We'll see how that one goes. And then I have actually got a few characters to work on. I won't be doing an awful lot on these at the moment. These are possibly going to take a bit of a back seat. I've got loads of character models to be working with. These Reaper miniatures, I do adore them. I think they're fantastic. I have had these for probably 10 years or more, sat in a box, never got round to doing anything with them. So it is high time that they actually had, you know, they saw an outing, but for now they are, we'll see, we'll get round to them. But they're on the table, they're started. So first things first, what I wanted to do was, oh look, I was trying to be flash with the basing, but I'm probably not going to use that. That's just a piece of wallpaper, but as you can see, the texture is really, really nice for a very simple base. But we'll have a look at those eventually, doing the bases on them. For now, they're just going to be black. What I do need to do, actually I really need to refill my paint water. I'm just going to go and do that now, so please bear with me. be back in just a second. There we go, lovely, fresh and refreshing paint water. Ready to see action. Now I'm going to have to mix a little bit of this Wraithbone colour in order for it not to be horrible. Because the paint that I've got is quite thick, and I could probably do with getting it thinned off a little bit, but that's for a different time. So all I'm going to do is come in and just highlight up these horns. I'm not going to go too far down them because I want to maintain some of that that colour that we were looking at the other day when we first did them. So we're going to go back to here, try and maintain some of that colour. I'm going to do the same on I'm probably not going to pull these all the way up to white. I think that just going up to Wraithbone will probably be enough for me on these. Just a little bit on some of the details here. Like I say, I'm just going to keep this fairly simple highlights. I'm not going all in. There's no prizes or competitions to be won. It's not Golden Demon. I'm literally just trying to achieve a slightly better definition on these, which honestly I don't even normally do this amount of highlighting on them because it's just not needed for a D&D miniature. The idea is that unless they are integral to the campaign, these guys aren't intended to be on the table for a very long time. And if they are integral for the campaign, they might not actually appear on the table at all, because the table is for combat and things that you want to kill. And if you don't want to kill them, why would you put them on the table? That's, that's kind of silly, that is. There you go, just a little bit on there to emphasize the bony nature of this these shoulder pads, I think. I mean, they are shoulder pads that a Space Marine would be proud of, aren't they? Finally, these little bits here. Just because midway through the paint we decided that they were going to be bones for like a rib cage almost. Not that we started out the session thinking that's what they were going to be, but we were debating about doing them some sort of cloth colour, but I quite like the idea of them being bones. So that's worked quite nice now on the horns. We've got a bit more clarity and definition, and honestly, that one's done. Hey, a model's done. Who would have believed it? Well, actually, I've been super pleased with the progress that we've been making to now. Really, it's a yeah, I really have been super impressed with the progress that we've been making. Now, all I'm going to do here is I'm going to pick off that little thing there, and then we're just going to come in and pick out these knuckles. He's got his knuckle bones on display. Just in amongst the blood stain there. I just want those knuckles to be visible, and I think that actually works quite nicely. Yes. Right, now this is probably not the colour that I want to use directly. I want to add something to this colour. So let me grab out the old magic pot of paints. I did also manage to make a bit of a start on organising some of the Chaos Space Marines for the 2nd edition army project that we're doing. I say that we're doing, you probably don't know anything about what we're doing. Let's just get that leveled up. See, again, I'm using my spot. Now, what I'm doing here is I'm just going to pull a little bit of Plague Bearer flesh and mix it in with the bleached bone, because that's not going very far at all, is it? I just want something that's going to go on here nicely and lighten this skin tone up a bit, so that we know that we're looking at something unhealthy, is basically what I'm getting at. And I think that looks quite an unhealthy skin tone, so we're going to just start just picking out some of the edges here. That's way too much paintbrush, isn't it? Might also need to go for a smaller brush. Don't know if I need my small brush, but I'm going to try it, see how we get on with it. Just need to I need to make sure that I'm sort of feathering in and picking out just areas that would be the sort of palest and most diseased looking. think that's a relatively subtle look, and it's lightening him up a bit, which is what I wanted to achieve. So I'm happy with that. We'll continue with that. Like I say, I just need to make sure that we feather in enough emphasis that this is sort of diseased flesh. He's dead. So with the plate bearer in there, I think it's just enough to sort of indicate that the flesh is starting to necrotize and starting to go off a bit, and that he's not at his best, that he has seen and had better days at the office. I just want to keep the details quite sketchy so that they're not, there's nothing sort of too brush marky about it. It will still look sort of like fairly random patches on the model where it does sort of sit up, and then I'm quite happy with how that is lightening it up a bit. Very much harder to chat about something like this than it is gaming or even the 3D sculpting that I was doing. You could talk about what you were doing a lot easier than you can when you're painting. I don't understand quite what that's all about. One of the other reasons that I'm going around and doing this is to just thin out where the blood on the stitching goes. So where we did the stitching and painted it bloody, I don't want it to obviously sit out too far. I want it to sort of blend back with this. Obviously where his face is, I can go a little bit harsher on the highlights. And what I might do is I might just come back with a bit of Plague Bearer and clean these back down again. Just want to maintain his little dimple at the bottom of his chin there as well. Yeah, I think I will have to come back with a bit of Plague Bearer and just tidy that up. Bit difficult with that huge mould line across his head as well that I've forgotten about, that I hadn't realised we were actually dealing with. Now let's just see if we can get a tiny bit of go. Just pick out his teeth. want to keep the eyes very, very simple on this, in that you just want them to basically be a dot, and then I'm pretty much going to come back and cloud them over. So just like that, and then I'll cover that with a wash to get it cloudy. Right, now we've just got a little bit to pick out on the feet. Well, no, we haven't. We've got a little bit to do on the knee here, a little bit on the feet. Pick out his little toenails. There's a bit of paper that we were fighting against for the basing that we were trying to do, but I don't think we're going to get away with that basing. I have tried it before on some of these miniatures, and sometimes it works, but other times it just absolutely doesn't work. Nice little bit of just highlights, just enough to show what should be there on the model. That's all we need. We don't need to go mad on this. I need to tell myself to keep going mad on these. They're great little miniatures, but they're not super detailed. They can't hold all the detail I'm trying to look at putting in on them, unfortunately. I say all the detail, I'm not actually doing that much to them. I'm just sort of sketching over the models with lighter colours to try and sort of feather in some of the darker washes that we've put on, and just trying to maintain that sort of lightness of colour here in order to emphasize sort of necrotic, damaged flesh sort of thing. Must try and remember to keep my spot on the painting mat as well, because I worked hard at setting this up so that you can actually watch what I'm doing. rather than some of the times where I go and sit and put my hand over the edge of the table to steady it, and I realise that, well, hang on, when I'm there you can't actually see what's on the screen. So yeah, trying quite hard to keep you guys in on it. Keep you in on the action, keep you sweet so that you know what I'm doing. Well, there we go. That has actually lightened that flesh tone up on him. Oh, just need a little bit around this extra work around this shoulder. Okay, well, that, I think, is about all we can probably ask of him. We'll come back maybe and just dip into the plague bearer flesh neat around his face, just to try and hide some of those highlights a bit. No, it's sort of there we go. And that's our fleshy golem. In fact, what I might do, just with that, because I think if there's one place that we'd like to get that sort of diseased idea across, the face is probably going to be the best place for it. So just a little bit there, and then some of these other areas around here, just to sort of highlight it. Where we went with some of that bruised coloration, we can just grab a little bit of the plague bearer flesh in there as well. Also helps to knock some of those highlights back a little bit by putting a little bit of a greenish tinge to them. Don't want it everywhere because I want him to be a bit bit of a patchwork of colours, you know, various different skin shades and what have you on him. So in essence, we're just sort of coming along and almost glazing a bit of that plague bearer flesh where we think the most necrotic bits of him would probably be. I'm not exactly a surgeon though, so I couldn't tell you where that might be. So he's just kind of getting them in random spots, that's all. One big diseased toe there, look. Okay. Looks pretty good, happy with that. He's really come along from the from where he was at the start of the session yesterday, where I hadn't done anything with him, and I'm actually really pleased with how that flesh is coming along now. Cool. Must be careful with that microphone. I keep bashing into it. So he's starting to look pretty cool. All I've got there is a belt and some form of jeans or trousers for him, along with whatever's happening on the back here. So yep, that's him nearly done. So our frost giant is done, our flesh golem is almost done, and our storm giant is starting to look pretty cracking. I'm quite pleased with that one. Let's got a few bits of highlighting to do on him, on his robes on his chest. Actually, what I might do is I might do the red, but I wanted to get out of the way first, because then that'll be all the colour sorted on him. You will notice that I am being trying to be quite careful with my contrast paints. I've cleaned up the spillage that was on my self-healing mat, but unfortunately what's on the desk from yesterday is going to remain there until I get the sandpaper out and clean up the desk, which is really annoying. I couldn't believe that. My first ever accident. My favourite contrast colour, and it happens to go all down onto the desk. That's a bit thick on there, but that is what I was after. colour wise, and then just these little traces of whatever that is down here onto his chest, just to break up that sort of quite muted colour scheme that we've got on him. And then we've got another one over just there, tiny little strip of red in there. And for the sake of these models, I am not going to highlight them any further. The only reason I want to do the white is to just bring out right on the edge of it. And he is a giant. I do wonder if a giant should have, I don't know. Does he have tiny little dot red eyes? What do storm giants have for eyes? Would they glow blue? I think they might glow blue, a bit like his lightning bolt. So what I'll have to do for him, I think, is we'll break out the white highlights. Yeah, we'll break out the white highlights. Little dot of white in his eye. I don't have my white ink anymore, unfortunately. I used to have some white ink, which was really nice and runny, and you could. The detail is so fine anyway that it's never gonna notice on there, so I won't bother with that. But then we'll possibly athematic blue his eyes. Well, that sounds like a threat almost, doesn't it? We'll athematic blue his eyes. Okay. Right, let's a tiny dot of white in each of those, in that case. Try and get it symmetrical. That looks pretty good. And then we can just come along with our highlights on this area of cloth. Not trying to be too subtle about them. They are edge highlights, but this white tends to dry pretty grey. I'm not sure if Corax white is supposed to do that, but the old ceramite white didn't. It felt like it was a lot not colour fast, because there's no colour to it, but I wonder if maybe I've got a contaminated pot or something. So that's another thing. For quite some time I have been out of the sort of hobby world, that, you know, the old sort of forums and chats and telegrams and all the rest of it. So I don't really keep abreast of, you know, is there a batch of tainted Corax white out there? Well, that would have been sort of the thing that a forum would have told you. I miss the forum days. Although it was just normally one drama after another, but think that was more about what forums you were on rather than forums in general. Oh, I should really remember that I've just done contrast paint, shouldn't I? Speaking of which, this was Apothecary White, which doesn't normally come over as grey as all that. Maybe it does, maybe I just haven't been using it right. So I have thought about running Storm King's Thunder a couple of times. I started Lost Mines with a group which I had planned to go all the way into Storm King's Thunder with them, but unfortunately they weren't for the distance, unfortunately. And the other group that I started with, they were for the distance, but they had a completely different direction in mind, and no amount of cajoling could get them back on track. There we go, touching the old contrast paint again just after I've done it. Okay, that is looking pretty swish on his robes now. That's a lot whiter where I wanted it to be. I've forgotten to do a gem down here that I was going to do in the red. We'll just whiten that up, ready for it later. That should have been contrast red, unfortunately, but never mind. Right, now I don't think I'm going to bother to highlight the silver. I do still need to do his boots. But this is the experiment time that I wanted to see if it'll work with Aethematic. Nervous. Because I imagine this could balls it right up if this goes too wrong. Let's just see what we can push around his face a little bit with this Aethematic Blue. I'm not going to actually try and push it around his face, but I do just want to get a dot of it in it. Okay, that sort of wicked it all away there. No, maybe I need to go harder and just sort of let it dry. Do you reckon that'll do it? Well, that looks a bit better. Maybe I do need to sort of splurge it around a little bit. There you go, that's sort of got that glowing look that I was after. Yes, happy with that. Now let's see how it actually dries in there, because that seems to be pooling all on one side, and I don't want it to pool all on one side. Oh, now I've got rid of it all. It's the trouble with contrast paint, is ensuring that it stays where you want it. I haven't particularly experimented too much with them as glazes, which is something that I really would like to do, because glazes are one of my all-time favourite methods. No, I can't. I want to prop him so that it doesn't all drain out to one side while it's drying, but now it seems to be going the other way. I'm going to leave him as is. Big swig of my tea. Anyway, that's kind of the look that I wanted to achieve. It's not perfect, but it is. It looks glowy enough, and it kind of ties in the sword, the lightning bolt, and his eyes. I think that's actually quite a fitting look for him. In fact, I can't tell you how pleased I am about that. That has really come out looking quite nice. Certainly better than the terrified inner thoughts were telling me that it was going to. I was like, you're going to ruin it, you're going to ruin it. Okay, right. Aethematic Blue, success. I do need another little bit of Flesh Tearers Red on his gem. And then I need to do his boots, and then he's done. That's him done. And then I can go and finish old Fleshy Golem man over there. So, tiniest little bit of contrast on here. Tiniest little bit has become the largest pool of contrast ever. Oh, there you. Oh my god, what are you? I literally could not have messed that up more if I tried. I could have just gone, oh, do you know what? Yeah, let's fluff that right up by painting the tiniest little dot of red. Sometimes, some days. Now, we have a challenge for his boots. What are we going to do with his boots? We've gone Wildwood. We haven't done any snakebite leather on him, but I don't think he's a character that's going to like snakebite leather. I think Gore Grunter fur will do for his boots, and then he's done. Oh look, I've got a bit of wildwood on his lightning bolt there. It's a good job these are rough and ready miniatures. Right, bit of Gore Grunter fur on his boots. Hello. Oh, I'd love some, thank you. Okay, I'm not a massive fan of that colour, but actually I do like the colour, I'm just not a massive fan of it right there. So maybe that will stay, maybe that will get redone. I don't think it's too bad, but I do think it is more fitting to fur rather than... No, actually I don't. I do think that that Gore Grunter fur does make a very nice leather. It's just maybe it's not fitting for this model, I don't know. Right, let's see if there's a way in to here. Can we get in? Yes, we can just about get in there and see what the hell we are doing by looking in there. Oh my god, that's I think we need to change the music. I'm quite enjoying this sort of canned music type effect that we've been going on. Let's have a look. Let's hit. Okay. I do still feel like he should be in an advert for a sportswear brand. Just seems to be the case with him. Right, I'm just gonna do the old darken that gem a little bit at the top. I'm not going to bother with the little dot of white, although I might. I shouldn't. I should just leave it. Yeah, we'll just leave it. Okay, that is my Storm Giant done. Oh, can you believe it? 2 giants done. And 1 fleshy golem. Oh my god. I've just realised I've missed a patch of skin. After all this time, I've just got... Okay, well, you know. My giants are done. My giant pair. I'm really pleased with them. They are going to make fantastic centerpieces when I ask my team to roll initiative. Although unfortunately they're not quite as big as they should be. The box game that I got them from is called Assault of Giants, Assault of the Giants, something like that. I think it's just Assault of Giants, like a Parliament of Owls or a Murder of Crows or something. It's in the wrong scale. They're not 28mm scaled. A lot of the WizKids stuff actually fits quite well with other ranges, but not those. Those giants are too small. The human size models in that box set are like up to his hand. That's it. They're tiny. And so consequently the giants have been scaled down, which is a bit of a shame, but it's not the end of the world, because they're still much bigger than a human-sized model. And I can say, yeah, well, you know, if they were as big as they actually are, then you know, you wouldn't be able to put them on the table, and that'll scare my players just as much as if they were giants. I mean they are giants, but if they were giant, maybe. I don't know. I think I might be rambling. Just trying to finish our Flesh Golem's belt. This guy is scaled correctly. This is about how tall he is supposed to be. I mean, I say that, how tall he is supposed to be in... too dark. When stood next to a human-sized model. I'm intrigued as to what my Oblex, the model that I've got there, is supposed to look like. I'm not gonna let that mess up with the flesh tone stand though. I am gonna paint that in on his leg before I do his jeans, and then he is also done. And then we'll be making a start on something new, and I don't know what that will be. Do we do the Dracolich? Do we do the Oblex? Do we do a Fire Giant? So many different things to choose from at the moment. Thank you. Look, see, I was doing that down here off stream and you guys couldn't see it. That's what I need to remember. My center spot is in the center of the screen. Must remember that. Right. Eeny, meeny. What do I paint next? Dracolich? That is a big old boy, isn't it? Unfortunately, it's mostly going to be bone. There's a few bits of sort of clinging flesh, tendons and what have you that might remain, but generally it's all a bit all a bit squidgy. Where did my knife? I can't see it. Lost my knife. Well, that's unfortunate. Where was it? That's really hot. Ow. God damn. I just spotted a little thing on the model that I want to trim off and I can't find my knife. I was using it to clean up Space Marines earlier on. And they've gone. I don't know where they've gone. I had it on the panel. Oh, that's just downright bizarre. Anyway. Now I did find a method the other day of showing you what I had proposed for painting certain of these miniatures. Let's just have a look at let's just have a quick look at what I was thinking of when it comes to this bad boy. Nope. Something similar. To this. That's what I was thinking of. Which I think will be suitably dramatic. Possibly. Anyway, that's one option. We do also have our lovely Storm Giant. Another lovely Storm Giant, I should say. I don't know quite to paint him because he hasn't got an awful lot of exposed flesh, has he? He's mostly cloak, which I think his cloak is probably going to be a bit bluish. White on these tassels, do we reckon? Or would that be leather? Oh, we've got some feet. Feet, hands, face. I'm wondering about if this could be like the bottom of his pecs. Maybe I should paint that in flesh tone as well, but I'm not sure. We've got some cloth, not a lot of it. Is that cloth or is that going to be like leather straps? Might need to look up some details for this guy because he's going to be quite interesting to do. Right, how are we getting on here? Okay. This is now ready for the final touch, and the final touch on this one is going to be black. He is getting black trousers. Black? Do I go for a dark grey? Black is quite final, isn't it? Just have a look and see what I can... I think the black looks quite good. I think I'm going to go with black on him. Yeah, so Black Templar it is then, right. If anybody is wondering about scale, that's probably a good way of determining how big this guy is. He's quite a chonk. He will be a scary thing to put in front of people, that's for sure. That's obviously one of the Space Marines that we'll be getting round to. Right. We have a bit of black, a bit of black, a bit of black to do. Being quite careful here because I don't want to make a big old mistake at the last hurdle, because this one has taken me a bit of time. I've spent more time on these last three than I have all of my other miniatures put together, because they are pretty much centerpiece miniatures that kind of scream, oh, take a bit of extra time and care and effort and get it right. And so it's only fair that we actually do that. Oi, oi, oi. Managed to scuff off some of that leather colour there, unfortunately, but barely even notices when you get the black around it, so I'm not gonna go back and retouch it. I don't think I need to. If anybody is interested in these miniatures, they are simply from the D&D board games. There's a quite a big range of these board games out there. Most of them, I believe, are WizKids. And they normally contain a good chunk of miniatures as part of the play pieces. So highly recommend them if you are looking to start or expand a range of D&D miniatures for your campaigns. These ones I managed to pick up, as with all of them, I managed to pick them up like second hand, normally from people on Facebook Marketplace or somewhere like that. But there are still deals to be had if you are patient. What I always find with Marketplace is the worst stories come when you look for and need something right now. If you tell yourself that you're going to buy it on Marketplace, but you're going to wait until it comes up at the right price, and you set yourself a budget and you don't move from that budget, I normally find that that works quite well, and then you actually tend to get what you want for the amount that you've set yourself as a target for it. So with these, I say we'll wait until we see someone list it at around 30 quid, and then pop into their messages with a cheeky little offer. Normally I will offer them like 30 quid. And when you consider that you can sometimes pick up like 40 miniatures for that, that's quite good value, even if they are these sort of PVC things that no self-respecting hobbyist would actually have in their collection. Well, I can tell you, it's a lot cheaper picking this up than it is flesh golems and what have you from sort of other miniature ranges. There we go, that's our flesh golem done and dusted. The last of our first 3 big guys on the string. In fact, that is the first big guys that I've done. Quite pleased with that. I want to see what an Oblex is. Yeah. What in hell is an Elder Oblex? I really need to know. Oh my word, it's a Mind Flayer ooze. Wow, that's kind of terrifying. Okay, so they produce a simulacrum as a lure. They're an anglerfish, basically. Okay. Interesting. I have a miniature for it, which is kind of disgusting. I mean, it is like all kinds of disgusting. But I'm really intrigued by it because basically this is just a big red mount. And then this is a simulation. So I'm wondering if there should be like hints of red and what have you about. I mean, you can see that she's sort of a bit jerky and not walking right and what have you. That's a very interesting miniature. This one was, you can see, Elder Oblex. And, oh God, don't look in there. Don't look at it. This was from the Trials of Tempest box game, which is one of the only ones that I've actually bought new. I found a really good deal on it, and I bought it new. Right, our flesh golem is ready to serve the will of a vampire lord somewhere. Off you go to the display cabinet, my friend. I do need to actually look at painting all the bases on these. An iron golem. I don't want to paint him in metallic colours because that then defeats all the setup that I've done to get it to that point. Let's have a look. They are very much painting them in metallics. But I don't need to if I don't want to. What colour? What colour should we do it? What colour would they possibly have painted him? I want to go outrageous with him. I want my iron golem. I want my iron golem to look a bit like Iron Man. Oh my God, I do. I want my iron golem to look like Iron Man. Enough. Let's have a look. Without metallics, so just Iron Man colours. Red in the chest, yellow upper arms, red lower arms, red shoulders, yellow and red helm. Seems reasonable enough, doesn't it? So, yeah, we can do that. I mean, I think he's going to look a bit goofy, but it's a sacrifice I'm willing to make. But on this one, I am going to go with, I don't use this very often, I'm actually going to break out the Blood Angels red. Yeah, we're going to go with the Blood Angels red. Am I actually contemplating? I am contemplating doing this. Iandon yellow and Blood Angels red. He's gonna be Iron Man. Yeah, yellow first, I think. He's quite a big boy as well, actually. Not quite as big as the fleshy golem that we just had, but still quite a big boy. Right, yellow first. I'm not sure about this yellow. I've never really used it, but we're going for the brighter yellow. Now, let's see. I want the sort of cartoony Iron Man. Upper legs, upper arms, bit on the face. Yeah, we can do this. We can make it work. Possibly. It might end up looking atrocious, at which point we'll strip it off and paint it again. I don't actually know how these models will take to stripping, so we might not strip it off, if I'm honest with you. We might just end up stuck with it, or without a model. I mean, heaven forbid I'd have to spend another 16 quid on the board game again. So there's not really any definition of a faceplate there, but I am going to do that, and down here as well. And then the red is going to come in around the rest of the helm and the chest plate. So we're then going to shift to the upper arms. Doesn't cover the zenithal black quite as well as I was hoping, but still good enough for what we're aiming for, which is, I mean, this one is going to be far less detailed than the previous paint job. So if you're expecting, I mean, I think I might actually take a little bit of time and maybe try and battle damage him or weather him up. I think that's only fair. So maybe there will be a bit of added effort on this guy. Okay, nice and simple. Get some colour on him and then come back and we'll highlight him, and I'm not sure about too much in the way of highlights because I do despise yellow and red. So contrast would be amazing if we can get this to if we can get this contrast to do everything that we need of it and not have to come back and paint this with actual real paints, I will be ecstatic, because I do hate yellow and red. I haven't experienced modern yellows and reds, so I don't know whether the opacity and formulas have improved or whether they're still just as dog shit as they were back when I last painted sort of Games Workshop minis and stuff like that. I can remember painting an Imperial Fist once. A friend of mine asked me to paint it for him, so I painted this Imperial Fist, and I spent like 3 days toiling over the yellow to get it right, and it just wouldn't go. It just wouldn't work, wouldn't look right. I just, in the end, I just said, nope, not doing that anymore. I have heard some interesting methods of painting yellow, though. It's like with different coloured base coats. I think there was something about painting it over purple. I can't remember quite how it went, but that did sound interesting. One day I will have to. I've got an airbrush, I've got a compressor, and I've got an airbrush. But I've never been able to get a correct flow rate out of it. I don't know what I'm doing wrong, but I've looked at consistency of the paint, I've looked at the pressure that it's running at, I've looked at all sorts of things. I just cannot get a consistent flow rate to come out of it. I'm like, oh, that's an awkward angle. You can do it. Get in there. Okay, it's coming along okay. Right, nearly done with this awful yellow. Actually, don't mind that as a shade. Oh, although we have got some feet on him, haven't we? Wonder what would we do there with his feet. I think doesn't often happen, but I think those feet in yellow as well. Excellent, right. Around there. Just go a little bit more on there to create a contrast effect. It's better. Right. He's looking all right. It's washed out a little bit on the camera. I must look at the white levels. That's actually coming up quite a lot yellower on there, whereas it's looking quite green almost on the camera as far as I can see. So this is the start of Iron Golem. Which, when I do put him down on the table, will 100% not be a meme character based on Iron Man. I promise. Actually, I promise nothing. This guy is going to be played exactly as you see him here. i.e., he's going to be played very much like Iron Man. Right, that's the yellow. I've got a nice bright red there. I'm just going to take a very, very quick break. During which time, if anybody has any input on... Let's get them here on screen. We have Dracolish, Storm Giant, Ogre, Fire Giant. Oh god damn, keep dropping my paintbrush. And Oblex. If anybody has any input about which ones they would prefer to see done, put it in the chat. Pop it in the chat. Let me know what you think. We'll have a look at one of these to go with Iron Golem. I'll be back momentarily. Thank you for your patience, folks. So, how are we getting on? Does anybody have any preferences as to what is going to take up hobby space along with Iron Golem? I'm going to pop the Storm Giant out to one side just for the moment, in case anybody was thinking about voting for that. The Oblex is terrible, to be honest with you. The Fire Giant is going to be an interesting one, definitely. I think he might be a strong contender, to be honest with you. And then we've got our Ogre. Now, He's a very nice, simple model. Do like that one. I think, oddly enough, considering that they're not terribly common, the Oblex, the Iron Golem, and the Fire Giant will be the next on our list of contenders. So we're going to pop the Iron Golem to one side. The yellow that I just had out, I think we're going to grab that again, and then we're going to go and start plonking that in some areas where there might be heat and fire and, yes, that sort of thing. So nice simple fire is here. I am planning some slightly more detail than just painting the fire yellow, you'll be happy to hear. I have painted fire before, and what I think we'll work on is the idea that the base of the flame is the hottest and therefore the brightest and yellowest, and then we will go sort of dark and smudgy towards the tips. Just the tip. Okay. But because contrast paint is super thin, doesn't matter that I paint in all of the flame in the yellow, because when I come back to do the orange and the reds and the blacks, it doesn't matter that it's already been pre-painted yellow. That's fine because it's so thin. And contrast actually makes quite a good job of setting up the paint of fire just off the bat straight away. Look at that. That's really, really nice. Fire is like one of those sculpted fire, obviously. Just painting this onto a flat plane wouldn't have the same effect, but sculpted fire is one of those things that contrast paint works really, really well at. Nice, got that. Now this is also going to prove quite interesting to see how contrast paint works as a glaze, because I might, am I brave enough to even be thinking about doing some OSL on this? Been a while since I've done it, folks. Did have a nice OSL thing going previously, but we'll see. We'll see how this one plays with us, because I have a feeling that this might be one that benefits from a slightly simpler scheme. I don't know whether OSL is going to be needed, especially if what I'm thinking of doing with him pans out. What I'm thinking of doing is going back and where he comes out of the armour, painting a sort of fiery tone there. So at the wrist joints, at his neck. I don't know whether that will work, but I might try it out. I do like the way that's come out. I think that's rather cool, actually. So what I was thinking was going in here with yellow and seeing if I can work that up, but I don't think that's going to work. There's no other real fire on him, so just making sure I get all of those little spots. Don't want nothing coming back and just going, oh, you've got to paint me. That's cool. That's cool. Right, okay, that'll do for now. I'm not going to move any further on him. So, our Oblex, on the other hand, is supposed to be very red. Let's have a look. Let's have a little look at what an Oblex is supposed to be. Oh, god damn it. I keep bashing the mic arm, so I do apologise. I need to lift that up a bit to there. That'll do. Some of them paint the skulls. Others of them have the skulls held inside almost. This is rather weird because I think that they have done this miniature before, but with a male simulation rather than a female one. Okay, dark trousers, leather boots, leather corset and red and then white sleeves, regular skin, red eyes. Red eyes is going to be important, I think. So this is going to be a bit interesting because we kind of want to get a glow effect on this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to break out the Blood Angels red. And then I'm going to sort of layer on the darker red over the top so that the recesses are going to be Blood Angels red. Oh, that might not work because the faces are going to be Blood Angels red and the recesses, and then I'm going to go round the faces but not hit the recesses with the darker red. That's a plan. You heard it here first, folks. That is a plan. Might not be a very good plan, and I do think I might need a bigger brush. No, I'm not. I'm just gonna slop it on. That opened up suspiciously like this was the Blood Angels red first time. Like we were popping a contrast paint cherry. I don't know that this is a particularly bright red, to be honest with you. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. It's painting it into a crevice. So, right, now we do need to get it on relatively thick so that we get the contrast effect, rather than it just being a paint. I mean, I don't think any player is going to like meeting something like this, because these are quite horrid, aren't they? You really wouldn't want to meet this anywhere, let alone, you know, in the sewers of Waterdeep or something like that. Oh, I'm missing my marker again. I need to make sure I'm moved over. I don't know, I feel like a bigger brush wouldn't actually help me here, because you're a bit limited by how much you can actually get to the miniature. Well, it makes sense in my own head anyway. So I have, here in the UK, we're in the middle of a bank holiday weekend, which is always nice because it means no work on Monday. Which means I do have the ability to go for a little bit longer night than I normally do. Stupid thing. So what I have decided, because I've also actually booked next week off. Monday I do have to go to bed because I'm actually helping out work by going in on one of my days off to do something. I've got to see a site started, which means an early start on Tuesday, but the rest of the week I've actually got off. So what I've decided that I'm going to do this week is I'm going to actually do a little bit of an experiment with the days of the week that I stream, because currently I'm streaming Friday through Tuesday with Wednesdays and Thursdays off. But I have noticed, and it may just be that we've had a few sort of well, no, we haven't had a few weird weekends here in the UK. We've had this weekend, which is a bank holiday, but the previous sort of weekends, I have noticed possibly decreased traffic to the stream, which is, you know, it feels like Friday and Saturday should be the busier days, but if they're not, you know, perhaps people are actually going back out to the pub and things again. I don't know. But it would make sense for me to possibly change the stream schedule to accommodate for that, and no longer stream on Saturdays and Sundays. Maybe stream on the Wednesdays and Thursdays instead, and do a sort of regular Monday to Friday kind of deal. So this week I'm going to try it out. see how we get on. And we'll go. I think we're going to stream for 12 days straight. Not without a break, obviously. That would be madness. But it will be quite interesting to see whether that changes any of the traffic the channel's getting. Because we have been doing this for a little while, and we do seem to do quite well on Mondays and Tuesdays. Then obviously Wednesdays and Thursdays I'm off, and it tends to be a bit quiet because I'm not here. But then Saturdays and Sundays don't necessarily get me much in the way of traffic. So it'd be interesting to see what the results of that little experiment are. Of course, the weirdest thing about this is that the model originally was in red plastic, so we've done all of this to paint it back red, which feels a bit foolish. No, because we can add shade and stuff. It wasn't there on the original one. Right, a little bit of care around here now where we're actually getting to the model. Oh, poo. It's alright, that's going to be black anyway, so that's not too much of a drama. I would rather not get any on her sleeves because they are going to be white. I want to try and not get... Oh, sorry, hitting you with me hat. I want to try and not get any on her white sleeves. That would be very nice to achieve. While also trying not to miss any, because it gets a bit complicated around here. Oh god, look, see? You can barely see in there, but it is there. So I need to try and put all of that out in red. Yeah. That's frustrating as hell, isn't it? It's alright, we're nearly there. We are nearly there. So, yeah, those bits. I have heard that these contrast paints can be quite devastating to your brushes, so I might need to update this brush at some point, because I've been using quite a large brush, but it does feel like possibly it's losing its way a little bit now. Icky sticky. That's disgusting. Right, now we've got just a little bit around her hand. I mean, I get that the girl is a simulant, a simulation of a person that the big red oozing mass has conjured to entice people in. I do think that possibly the big red oozing mass should get out of the way. Otherwise, it's not a very convincing ruse. I'm not going to be looking at the girl rather than the big oozy death blob behind her. Don't know, maybe that's just me. Maybe they could go a little bit further away. Maybe they can. Although in some of the artwork that I've seen, they do appear to rely upon the stealth mechanic of crouching down, which, as we all know, instantly gets you extra stealth. Now, what I'm trying to achieve is a sort of red glow, and I don't know whether just painting this on is going to be enough to pass muster for red glowy sort of thing. I don't know whether I need to, as I say, break out the flesh tearers and go around the skulls. Maybe it needs to be even darker than flesh tearers. Maybe flesh tearers isn't dark enough. Puzzling. Obviously, with the way that I've oversprayed it and zenithalled it, the lower reaches tend to be a bit darker anyway, and the upper bits pick up the zenithal. So maybe in order to get that glow effect, I need to shade the recesses. Initially, I was thinking, oh well, I'll keep the recesses in Blood Angels, and then it will look like it's glowing from within, and I'm like, I don't think it will, because they're darkened down already, sort of naturally darkened by the zenithal that I did. So mayhap need to change that up a little bit. I don't know. Well, that's half a pot of Blood Angel red gone. Yes, just like that, snap of the fingers. And one Elder Oblex is red again. I say again because, like I say, this came out of the box in red plastic, and now I've repainted it red, and I feel rather foolish. Okay, so the flesh tearer's red. I think I'm going to break that out and paint it into some of the recesses. I think it will probably work out okay. I don't know whether to thin it down a little bit. I could. Right, let's see how that goes, because I don't think it's actually going to make too much of a difference, but we're going to start off by putting it into some of these recesses. See what happens here. I have thinned it ever so slightly, so we will see. I mean, the camera is not going to pick out these differences in the reds very well. It is visible, but only just, to be honest with you. Okay, I don't think it's terrible, but I think perhaps if I'd have let the Blood Angels dry, that would have gone even worse. I don't want to get too bogged down with this red. It's quite overpowering, and I don't think it really is going to make much difference how I smear this on. I might need to come back and highlight some stuff. God, that means more actual painting. And I'm shit at that. Okay, that works enough that I don't need to really worry about doing too much more. I will have to do some little highlights here and there. In fact, let's have a look and see about this. I hate highlighting. Well, no, I don't hate highlighting red, and I'll show you a little trick if we get round to it. In fact, I think I should probably be doing that already. Yeah, I don't think that's right. That's looking too pink. The secret I've always found to highlight in red is don't add white. Don't add white, don't add yellow. If you add yellow, you get a you get an orangey colour, and orange doesn't look quite right. If you add white, you get pink, and it doesn't look quite right. What I add to my reds for highlighting red is flesh, bronzed flesh in fact, and then you end up with this sort of colour here, which maintains the sort of red. That's a lot on the brush. It maintains the same tone of red without going pink, without going orange. So it's really, really nice. And then to shade, you use green. Yep, sounds mad, but I'll show you what I mean in a moment. So yeah, that hasn't actually changed the tone of the red. It's changed the shade, you know, the lightness, but it hasn't actually changed the tone of it. It's still the same sort of red. I'm quite happy with that. Move that so that it's not some of these skulls are just so beautiful the way they pop out. this should probably have waited until all of this other stuff below it was dry. Probably made a bit of a mistake there, to be honest with you. But I think we're okay. We'll just carry on for now. Now, I just want to highlight these tentacles a bit. Oh, nearly. I didn't drop it. You dropped it. I don't know what you're talking about. Maybe that only works on my kid. Let's have a look. How are we getting on there? Well, we've got some shades, we've got some highlights going. I'm going to need to pop that to one side and let it dry off now. But we've got something we're working on there anyway. That is an oozy boy. Oh yeah, I must remember to do all of these. Well, I've still got colour. Can't wait to actually break out the shade on this one. Throw some shade. Right, we're going to pop that to one side for now. That is done. Clean off our brush. Now, our big fiery giant dude, I don't know whether we need to actually, I missed a little bit of yellow there. I don't know whether we need to orange this. We've already got some decent orangey tones in there. I must see about working on this white balance. Maybe this lamp is no, don't like that one. That might be better. We'll try that. We'll go back to that. I don't know whether this orange is enough or whether it needs more. I'm thinking for this guy we might jump straight to red, in which case we can go back to our Blood Angels red. And put stuff onto Iron Golem Man. I do actually think that looks rather swish. Like that. It's very awkward to get in there though. Should we remember that? Can't really get any further into there though, so anything else will just have to remain shrouded away and we'll hope nobody notices it. Quite nice. This has got just some subtle sculpted on textures and what have you in there, enough to make it interesting to pick out the contrast. Okay, that's a really nice contrast of colours there. Not just in the contrast paint, but the red and the yellow works really, really well. Who would have thought? You know, certainly not Iron Man. What colours did he say in the movie? I can't remember. Hot Rod Red? Ah, well, that doesn't matter because that's getting done in silver anyway. It's the only part of the model that is. One of the reasons why I thought this might actually work is because in an Eberron starter that I did. So I was struggling a little bit with my players' attendance due to health reasons. So I said to the two who could come in, I said, well, yeah, we're gonna run a little taster session for Eberron, and I didn't give them any clues as to what we were doing, and I didn't get them to create a character. It's quite an interesting little sort of theory session, to be honest with you, where I said to them, look, we're gonna play through a scenario, and you are going to describe to me your character's actions, but you don't have any stats to work with. So they were like, well, how do we know what our character's actions are? And I'm like, you tell me what you want to do, and I'll tell you if your character can physically do them or not. But just explain to me whether or not the character that you're thinking of would be good at something like that. So are they an athletic character, or are they more of an intellectual, or are they a magical, so explain to me, oh, my character's quite magical, great, yep, but I want to do a drop kick on a bugbear. Right, okay, that's really, really hard, so no, you're probably going to fail with the dice that you've just rolled. And one of my characters came up with a sort of martial classed Warforged, because it was Eberron. And I said, yeah, absolutely, we can do Warforged. And essentially they were traveling to the sort of main city. Is it Sharn? I think it's Sharn or something like that, to become a vigilante, a sort of masked vigilante robot. And they were painted and decorated with like a livery, and that was quite an interesting session. So I'm thinking that he might be quite interested when he comes up against this golem painted in superhero colours, basically. Quite a vibrant red, I will give it that. Covers quite nicely as well, even over the darker areas. Just covers up a little bit of paint that I missed there. I have also just recently restarted watching, not restarted, but resumed watching one of my all-time favourite D&D campaigns on YouTube, and that's the Viva la Dirt League Epic NPC Man Adventures of Azarim. That is such a funny campaign. Sometimes you can put up with the fact that the rules are having to be explained to people, and there's timeouts while silliness happens. If it's silly enough, it's just hilarious. I can't stop watching the campaign. It's so good. Right, just the leggy pegs left to do. Just try and get under that lip of material there, just to so that there's no white peeking out. So I've had these contrast paints now since the day they were released, and I have painted hardly anything in that time. So this is a bit of a shock to the system. Over the past probably 3 or 4 months, I've actually started painting models again, which is just unbelievable. So now I'm actually getting ideas above my station, and I'm thinking, oh, I can do this and I can do that, and so as well as the D&D miniature, miniatures, I want to start another 40k arm, but I want to do a 2nd edition 40k army with some of my very old miniatures, and I'm a bit confused about what to do. I recently scored a bit of a haul of Chaos Space Marines. I've got a whole bunch of 2nd edition Chaos Space Marines now. Some really nice models that I can renovate, rescue, etc. Oh, I hope his leg isn't going to go too stripy there. I think it's going to go quite straight. I've also got a very sizable Eldar force, which are actually my very first Warhammer models. So there's a real sentimental value to that, a real sentimental attraction to that army, but I don't know which one to do. So what I might do is I might... Oh man, that's all going streaky. Don't know how to stop that from going streaky other than putting more paint on it. And I think that's almost at the point that it's drying enough now that putting more paint on it will actually make it go worse. So that's a shame, but that's how it's... that'll be alright. That'll be okay. Wow, look at him. Iron Golem, man. We'll come along, we'll paint some battle damage and some scarring and some other bits and pieces on him, and then he will be good to go. Nice simple one, that. Now, red is logical for a fire giant, but I don't know where. Possibly these plates. They might look like they might come off of some sort of dragon. I think his skin should probably be black. In fact, I think I'm going to leave his skin black, or not leave it, but come back and paint his skin black. Nearly lost him. Right. Let's paint these plates here in red. Oh, quite awkward to pick out some of this detail. It's gone quite soft round here. Back over my centre spot so that everyone else can see it. Okay, that's pretty cool there. Something down here with these ones. Like I say, they look like they might come off of some sort of dragon or dragon type monster. So red seems particularly appropriate for them. Okay. Oh, just trying to get in all of these little angles. Who made miniatures so complicated? What on earth were they playing at? It's almost as if it's a conspiracy. And he said conspiracy there, which, as much as it sounds cool, it isn't a word. Pretty sure it's not a word anyway. Check my dictionary when I sign off. Oh, I think the key to this red is keeping enough paint in there to maintain that contrast effect, you know, where it actually pulls, where it actually flows, because red can be quite congealy. This one appears to be no exception. Good fun though. I do like a nice bit of red. And I think it is, with the red, with the fire, I think it's fairly obvious that he's a fire giant as well. So I'm quite happy that he fits the narrative bill. You know, nobody's going to go, oh, what is he? I suppose some of my players might. Although I think some of my players are more a case of don't care what he is, roll initiative. Okay. Sure you don't want to try diplomacy? To get in that bit. There's a bit just in there. In there. That's it. Got it. Oh, these could almost be like big leaves or something, couldn't they? I don't think fire giants are particularly one for wearing leaves though, so we'll go with like dragon scales or something. Maybe they're the membranes of a dragon's wing or something that he's murdered with fire. Now, this is the bit that I am unsure about. So, let's massive mistake. Right, let's see if we can duplicate that effect on some of these. Possibly. Okay, that's actually looking pretty sweet. Not looking too terrifyingly bad. The other side of it obviously doesn't look like anything at all. So, let's see. A bit of medium in there. A wiggling and wobbling there. Right. So what I'm looking to maintain is the yellows in the bottom of the flames, as it were. Try and keep a shade of, I'm doing that off screen again, so try and maintain a yellow in the deepest recesses where it would be hottest, and put a red in there where the flame is going to start to cool. And that red serves as a guide for where we're going to come along, and we're actually going to put a darker red on there over the top of it all, and then we're eventually going to shade that upwards. It's weird, you with flames you shade it up to the tip rather than highlight the tip. That's the tip. Yeah, so that will eventually be black right at the tip of these flames. So we'll just start working our way up with the reds. And then eventually we're going to have to break out the black to go over the top of this. Okay, yeah, I'm happy with that for now. Yeah, happy with that. Pushing back to one side now. We're gonna let our oblex. I'm sure it's an oblex. That's what it's called. We're gonna let him dry. Now, what is our next plan of action? I would like to highlight up the oblex, but I am letting him dry a little bit. I want to make sure that all of the nooks and crannies and crevices are dry before we attempt to do anything with this. And then what we'll do is we'll highlight, and then we will come back and I'll show you what I mean about shading with green, because honestly it's beautiful when it happens. You have to let the shade dry, but once it does, it really does look the part. Now, what are we looking at with the these scales? I reckon should be black. I want to do his skin black, and I don't think that's going to work very well. These weird plates here, I think they should be metal, but I think the inset on them should be a green colour. I think it would look quite nice, and I might even do the same. No, not on that. That's going to be regular metal. The sword will be regular metal. I think so. And then we're we're going to have like bone on these strips. We're going to have a nice leather belt. That could be bone as well, actually. No, gold. Gold on the belt. I am thinking black skin for him though. We'll make it work. No, I don't want to make it work. I want it to be right. Should have done those bits red as well. I'm going to do those bits red. What can I do to break up his black face? Oh, I can do that gorget piece in metal and then these scales in black. Yeah, that's right. Okay, that's fine. So for him, metal. For this guy, metal. That's our next steps. We'll come along, put metal on the chopper. Because that does look like a bit of a chopper. And then metal on the fire giant. It's all good. It's all good. Apparently, this is music for painting Warhammer 40,000 with some not quite Space Marines on them. No, maybe not. Not into that. Right. Let us proceed to put metal on things. There's quite a lot of metal on things, really, isn't there? That fire giant is going to have quite a lot of metal on him to paint, actually. Now that I look at it a bit better. Alright, I don't think that's too much of a problem. I do wonder when I come to do him whether he might benefit from a bit of Agrax Earthshade in quite a few of the recesses and the like. And there's a bit of a stain on the tip of his sword where some red is showing through. I'm going to see if I can cover that up with a slightly thicker bit of mithril. Still there, just still there, but I'm sure we'll live. Sometimes I astound myself by how poorly I think these models out. Because really, you don't want to be painting silver over the top of the yellow and what have you, and then having to come back and redo it. So I think we can probably fix all of that when we shade it. Because I think that's going to shade quite nicely, actually. And yes, there is a decent amount of metal on this guy, but none of it is terribly complicated. We can do all of this. Oh. That's a very big belt. It is a huge belt. Obviously, fire giants aren't the largest of the giants, but they are quite boisterous. And I imagine that he's going to wear this a little bit like a wrestler. But that might just be because my campaigns do often seem to feature an inordinate amount of wrestling. I once created a goblin who my players ran into as part of a goblin camp. And the leader of the goblins challenged them to a wrestling match. And unbeknownst to me, one of my characters had written into his backstory that he was his tribe's champion wrestler, so he jumped at the chance to role play in some wrestling, and I ended up having to create for him a goblin wrestling belt that at the moment doesn't actually have any magical powers, but it will at some point. But don't tell him that. But yeah, so always with the wrestling. So I'm wondering if this guy will end up with a sort of wrestling belt. He's looking all right. He's not going to take too long to paint, actually. I might have to see about adding some sort of extras and effects to some of these guys, because otherwise the last three that I did seemed to take quite a bit of time. I had nearly, well, 1.5 sessions, but it was a slightly longer session last time, so we're talking more like sort of 4 hours to do the 3 big guys last time, which I suppose when you're talking about Games Workshop and you know, not necessarily Games Workshop, but people who actually put effort into their miniatures, 4 hours for 3 big centerpiece models is not actually a long time at all. In fact, it's an incredibly short amount of time to do those models, so perhaps I should be quite pleased about that. But these guys are seeming to be quite far ahead of the game almost. I'm starting to get a bit of a numb bum, so I will be calling the stream, what are we, 20 past 11. Yeah, we're not going to go too late tonight. Fortunately, I don't have any real responsibilities for tomorrow apart from moving around the living room. How do I volunteer for these things? Today and yesterday was replacing the wishbones on the missus's car, Joy. And then tomorrow I'm moving around the living room. Not just moving around the living room, I'm moving the living room around. And I mean, I'm not picking it up and taking it to a different town. You know what I meant. Right. Like I say, I think the inlays on these panels should probably be like a dark green, because I think that would go quite well with the red and the black and the fieriness. Could be wrong, but I think that will go in there quite nicely. Right, only a little bit more left to do. We've got the his skirt. And then we've got these plates around his legs and the ones on his boots. They're quite simple now. Nearly done with him. To get to, but we'll manage it. Phew. Well, I don't know whether we're going to finish these guys on stream tonight. I don't think we are, because there's still quite a lot left to do, especially the Oblex. I don't want to spoil it by rushing that one. because I think that one will probably benefit the most from a little bit of care and attention, even though that's probably the one that's scaring me the most about giving it some care and attention. So we'll have to see with that. Yeah, my brush is definitely starting to get a bit damaged. Oh well, I mean, they are perfectly nasty, cheap brushes, to be fair. So anyway, so we have our terrible trio of red guys here. The Oblex is, well, we're getting somewhere with it. You know, we've got her to do. She's going to be quite simple. Got a bit of white on her sleeves, bit of skin tone, some red eyes. Definitely specifies the red eyes. And then we need to work our way through some highlights on the goo mound. I think this is a model that will really benefit from having the base painted in, because as you can see, we've got a lot of splatter. I don't know, is this something that leaves a trail? Because that might be quite interesting. We could paint a strip of bloody goo off here. That would be disgusting. So that's these are our models and what have you, starting to look the part. What have we got to do on this one? We've got to pick up the little bit of extra red that we were talking about. We've got some leathers that need to be picked up. I think that's going to be leather, or should that be black? Black to go with that? I think so. Those bits down there, black, leather, red. Hey! Red, black, leather, some straps on his arms and what have you. Yeah. Black face. No, I'm not being racist. He's gonna have some black on his well, his skin is going to be black. Don't know what colour to do his hair. Maybe his hair should be white as a contrast. I don't know. That would be quite some contrast, wouldn't it? Black skin, white hair. Oh. What are we looking at time-wise? 11:30. Yeah, I think I'm going to call it for tonight. It's been good. I've had a good stream. I've had a lot of fun. I am going to be quieting that there. Jump to this one. Obviously you get a slightly different jarring mix of music there. Great stream tonight. Thank you very much for everybody who's dropped by. It really does mean the world to me. I've got to get rid of some of this stuff because look at you, I can barely see you. There we go. We'll move that down there, we'll move that down here, and this camera will close this down as well. But yeah, thank you very much for everybody who's dropped by this evening. It really does mean a lot to me to have people there watching the stream, enjoying it, commenting and chatting. Yeah, it means the world. If you like what you're seeing, please do drop me a follow. It means everything. It's how I help it's how I grow the channel. Yeah. I'm back tomorrow night, 8 o'clock, as normal. Won't be a terribly long stream tomorrow. It'll be the sort of normal 2-hour stream. Then after that, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, unless we decide to change things up again. But the rest of the week will be potentially slightly longer streams, so I am looking forward to that one. Anyway, like I say, until the next time, folks, toodaloo.